Hello, I'm Jeff Cavins. We're talking about Lent and going through Lent and combating the flesh, mortifying the flesh, and walking in victory. In our prior video, I spoke to you about the problem that Adam and Eve faced in the garden, and the fact that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil didn't really look that bad at all. In fact, we found in Genesis chapter 3 that it was good for food, it was good to look at, it was beautiful, and also it was desired to make one wise. Those three things have a way of tripping us up, don't they? We could talk about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. In fact, it's the Apostle John in his first letter that talks about these three things that really tripped up Adam and Eve at the beginning. It tripped them up, it held them back, it kept them from God's best, which was a life with the Creator. Not just a life with the Creator's created things, but actually a life of intimacy with the Creator. And that's what the good things in our country can do in our life. They can actually get in the way, and they can become idols in our life. Lent is a great way to combat that. Listen to what John said. John said in 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15 and 16, he said, "Do not love the world." This is a message, I think, directly for Adam and Eve, right? And it's for us. "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, for the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever." So it's an interesting contrast. We have in Genesis 3, it was good for food, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was a delight to the eyes, and it was desired to make one wise. John seems to contrast that with the lust of the flesh, good to eat. Lust of the eyes, it was beautiful. And the pride of life, desired to make one wise. Those are the three things that we really struggle with. And I want to propose to you an answer to those three things. In this first of our three videos on combating the flesh, I'd like to talk about almsgiving. Now I'm reading here from Matthew chapter 6. This is in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus gives three forms of piety that correspond to Genesis 3:6 and 1 John chapter 2 verses 15 and 16. As you remember, we have the lust of the flesh corresponds to the eyes. We have the lust or the taste good. The lust of the eyes, which corresponds to it was beautiful, and the pride of life, which corresponds to it was desired to make one wise. The three forms of piety that Jesus introduces in the Sermon on the Mount combat this. Let's take the first one, concerning almsgiving. Now, what would that correspond to? The lust of the eyes. How many times does something catch our eyes and all of a sudden we find our heart following very quickly behind, wanting it? It could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be prestige, whatever it might be, but we want that. You know, so many people go to malls these days and they just look and they watch and they look through catalogs and online and things catch their eyes. But how do you fight that? Well, number one, don't spend so much time doing it. In the Lenten season, focus on divesting yourself of these things. Now, how can you do that? Jesus gives us the answer. Almsgiving. Something as simple as giving away what you have to the poor can help you combat that lust of the eyes. He says in Matthew 6, "Beware of practicing your piety before men in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus when you give alms, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by men. Truly I say to you, they have their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." It seems so simple, doesn't it? But it's very powerful. If you're struggling with what we call the lust of the eyes during Lent, start practicing almsgiving. What you're doing is you are divesting yourself of those things that have caught your attention. And when those things catch your attention, your heart lands on those things and not on God. And that's idolatry. So during this Lenten season, I really want to encourage you to do that. When you go to the malls or when you go out and you start looking at different things, maybe you want to carry a few dollars with you. And when you see that person that's poor during this Lenten season, give it away. You know, I've started a little practice of carrying some dollar bills with me, and when I go to the intersections and I see someone with a poster that says, I'm out of work and I need money, my first thought is probably the first thought you have, and that is, this is a scam. But you know what? That person might be there not for them, might be there for you. Might be there for you to practice divesting yourself of the things of this world that your eye has caught so that you can really get your eyes on Jesus. Give them a couple bucks. You say, well, maybe they'll go out and they'll buy something to drink. They might, but you know what? What's happening in that exchange is for them, but it's also for you. Look for the opportunities to divest yourself of the things of this world during Lent so that you can get your eyes on Jesus.